Welcome back, gentlemen. It is great to be back. I do need to offer you an apology about yesterday's live stream that didn't happen. I was on the road. It didn't even dawn on me. I'm not into the rhythm of doing this daily, but I was talking to the mods today, and the general consensus was consistency is important. You need to make an effort to be here, be square on time, or have a good excuse otherwise. And I'm going to make an emphasis or make an importance on that. So got to head over to beautiful Halfway, Oregon yesterday. Actually, I put together. Mama, your place is up here. Don't you know we have a show to run? I put together a 1-minute clip. There is nothing worse, I'm convinced, in this world than a GoPro camera. I thought it was just me not knowing how to use it, but I have had the last 2 or 3 generations of them, and they just don't work. Everything looks so good, and they've got the great accessories and all the mounts and all that stuff, but I don't know if it's just a cold environment, but for some reason, it won't work. So I didn't hardly get any footage. I had so many excellent things to share. It was beautiful, just perfect conditions, really good guys. But I got a few little clips and about a minute worth altogether. So Jack was not able to join me on this trip. I was a little disappointed. This has been an annual trip for us, but I have good news about him. Of course, there's nothing worse than someone talking about how wonderful the kids are, but I have to share what a great accomplishment, what he did this weekend. So Mrs. W and him were attending a big debate. He's very into competitive debate, and there were 120 participants at or near this, and Jack, and overall speaking, Jack got number 3, which is incredible. And then he also has a team policy debate where he argues with his partner, and they got 5th overall. So pretty amazing. We couldn't be more proud of him. Just an extraordinary kid. Certainly is not following in his father's footsteps, and I kind of knew it from an early age. As you guys might have figured out, I don't mind being in my shop and tools and such, and that was never really his aptitude. I realized that after a while he was just doing it to please his father, but we're just different, and that was my first child, and they don't come with a manual. So as fathers, we kind of have this idea that they're going to be just like us and have the same interests, but they're not. They're individual people, and they have different things. And this has been very exciting for me because it has brought me into a world of an experience that I didn't even know existed. If you would have told me or asked me about debate, I wouldn't even know what that was. But it's very, very exciting when you get into it. So shout out to Jack. He did a great job, and very proud of him. How about, should we go over there and should I pull up that video for you? It's just short. I've got some super high production. We'll drop it in, and we've got 1 minute, right? All right, here we go. Yeah, and that's about it. It ends with a crash, but you definitely get the flavor. Hey, if one of you guys, one of the mods, I didn't send myself the link. Send me the link to the chat. I didn't pull that up here, and I definitely feel a little bit in the dark, and I'll have to see if I can get that open. So we've got a new way of. The mods got together, put their heads together, and figured out a way, so I think it's going to prevent me from missing Super Chat. So I do apologize if I missed you guys in the past. That should be corrected, and we're not going to have that problem anymore. All right, the kindling's getting low. We're going to need to cut some kindling. I do have an axe handle to put in for a very special vintage axe that I'm going to be probably doing that this afternoon, so look forward to that in the channel. We haven't done one of those for a while, and there's one tool that I really enjoy called a 4-in-hand. Have you guys ever heard of it? I've featured these in the past videos. This is a pretty incredible tool, and it's really the only tool you need to fit any sort of a tool handle. And they're still available. I bought this at my local hardware store. I have a few of them around, but they were getting a little bit dull. But next time you go to your hardware store, this is one of the handiest tools. It's called a 4-in-hand, and it's basically a 4-in-1 file. It gives you a coarse and a fine, and you've got the round shape right there, so that really works good for working up on the shoulder, like especially up here when you need to get some rounded spots on there. And then you've got the coarse and the fine on the back that's flat, and just a handy rasp to use. Because when you buy these handles, even whether you make your own or not, they're always going to be oversized a little bit. And you have a tendency, if you use a draw knife or just a regular knife, that you can have a tendency to have those things just go too deep. And it's really heartbreaking. And I've done it before where you spend 6-7 hours custom building a handle and get in too much of a hurry or just use too aggressive of a tool and gouge it out, and then it's lost and you can't use it anymore. But the 4-in-hand is a little bit slower, but if you just had one tool, you can do it. It's very good, very handy. What's the chance of us being able to get our lantern going without spilling? You know what time it is. So I left this running, so I definitely know it's empty. We'll find out here. So people ask me why I put the lantern on. It's just ambiance. I like the natural light. I don't like the LED lights very much. The more I'm around them, and it's really the only option for folks anymore because you can't get the incandescent anymore. But I miss that warm glow of the incandescent lights. And it's just not the same with the LEDs. I wonder sometimes if there isn't some negative health effects of those things. They haven't been out that long, and I don't know, the science is probably not out on that, but who knows? It seems to me that some of these things are, some of the things that we're having to deal with, the food, water, I wonder how good they are for us. A lot of people talk about, I've been reading up a little bit about aluminum, light metals, or they call them light metals, aluminum and things, and how some folks say that they may contribute to Alzheimer's and such. And I'm looking around my house, and it's in everything. It's in the deodorant. I was looking through, some people, I wasn't even aware of it. You wouldn't think that you're buying stuff that's been, approved by FDA, whatever. If it's in the market and it's in the U.S., it's safe, right? Well, not always. And a lot of the things that they sell us and that we eat in this country, if you look into them, are banned in Europe and other countries as having negative health effects. And it makes you kind of wonder, why is it that why other countries are banning these things? All right. Live stream, let me pull that up here. Nothing but the best production, gentlemen. There we go. Okay, I feel like I was a little bit in the dark there with the chat. All right, are we spilling? Yeah, we're definitely spilling. We're always spilling. I don't know what it is. It's just the cross I have to bear. It's a kind of a bad deal to spill with these lanterns because, as I said before, I'm always a little bit surprised. I'm a little surprised that they're still on the market. The way Safety Sally has taken over everything, turning loose most uninitiated folks with one of these, it could end badly. Oh, just give me 1 second. I got to wipe this gas off. Okay, you have to kind of man up with this thing because half the time it flames up on me. Scares the dickens out of me every time. 30 pumps on your lantern. I lost track, but I have a pretty good idea here. You can kind of feel the pressure. These bring back so much nostalgia. I guess the reason why I like to have it around is I like that warm light. That warm golden light from a flame, there's just nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it. Here we go. I feel like I need a face shield. Won't be receiving a Coleman sponsorship anytime soon. Gives me a heart attack every time. We have a super chat from friend of the channel, Mr. Where did I see it here? I'm going back. Where is it? Oh, it's not in there. I don't know. Maybe there's a delay. I'm sorry, gentlemen. We got a fire going. The chat's on fire. The live stream's on fire. There we go. Mr. Jason Barr. Shout out to you, Jason. Appreciate you being here. Jason says, we are going to have to get a granola emoji. A granola? I'm missing it. What does that mean? Come on now. We're almost there. Oh, okay. We got it. We got it, Mama. Thank you, Jason. We have a super chat from Mr. Brian M. Shout out to you, Brian. Good to see you here. Live stream spill rate, 100%. Yeah, it is 100%. I don't think there's been a day that we haven't had a spill. There we go. I had this thing hanging up on the antlers. I'm not a smart man. I couldn't figure it out. I have my fire bench right down there, and I'm always sitting over there. The baby comes out, and we hang out by the stove and stuff. And so I have clothes, throw my jacket down there, stuff. And I kept bringing stuff in the house, thinking, it smells like gas. Smells like gas. So I had this lantern above it, and I must overpressure it or something. And I left it running a couple times, and they do spill out. Maybe if you're going to bring one of these inside, I might go with the propane style. Okay, we need to split some kindling. My kindling is getting low. This little guy, I keep thinking that it's gimmicky. I did it. Someone sent this to me. No, maybe I bought this. I don't remember. Maybe I was probably when I was doing Amazon videos. I was looking for oddities or weird things. I just don't remember. But if I did find it, I ordered it. It's made by Mueller, and it's made in Austria, and it's the strangest splitting axe. But it's probably the best thing if you're just going to have something around the wood stove that you want to have that's small and kind of safe. It's got a big plastic guard on it that protects your hand, but look how massive it is. It's got a ton of weight in it, and it's just an excellent splitter. I keep going back and forth. I love the little Grand Force Brooks. This is the smallest one that they make. This is their little hand hatchet. This is delightful as well. But I have to say that I've been grabbing this one a lot more often than the other one because it just seems to work better. Just got so much mass in it. It's a very unusual design. It's a little bit hard on you. I don't typically like tools that have the metal like a full tang unless it's a knife. Any type of an impact tool where you're smashing on stuff, all of that force reverberates back into your hand and into your elbow. And it's really, really hard on you. There's nothing like... The thing with the hickory handles on the tools, a lot of guys are always asking, why are you advocating those wooden handles? Haven't we moved on from that? Because when you go to your hardware store, you're going to see you've got all the plastic handles. You've got the nylon and all that, and people like that because they don't get splinters. If you leave it outside for the winter, it usually lasts. It's fine. They're cheaper, less maintenance. They typically don't come loose. But the thing that you're missing out on is if you haven't used a proper wooden handle is that just the lack of liveliness in the plastic handles. And that's really why I don't care for the Fiskars axes. I mean, they're tough and they split good, and there's no question that those Fiskars are durable axes. But the feel of it just feels so dead. Like there's nothing alive to it. The spring that you get in a hickory handle, and U.S. hickory has always been the best, it actually helps you with your work. And you're not going to notice it so much if you're just doing a little bit or splitting a little firewood. But what I have noticed working with both of them, if you're spending a lot of time on the axe, you're going to cut down a big tree or something like back in the day, those chickens really come home to roost. It just has a spring that just gives an extra snap that is just so pleasing. That crack and that feel. And I think that's the reason why the wood bats, feel so much better than the aluminum bats. It's an interesting story that I heard from my granddad years ago. I have cut down several trees with combination of axe and crosscut saw, the way that they used to do it back in the day. And so how he told me how they used to do it is that the guys would go out, and this is in the Pacific Northwest. This is when loggers had to cut down trees, and it was piecework. So you would go out there with a team on the bigger ones, and these aren't the super, super big red ones, but the big one, you could be 3, 4, 5 foot at the bowl, and you'd work on a team as a team of 3. And you'd start with a double bit of axe. A guy would start going around with a double bit of axe, and he'd start working around the bark, removing all of the bark in a strip about 6 to 12 inches or so. And the reason for that is in the big firs over here, that bark is super, super thick, and it's very porous. And every time the wind blows or any time that there's sand or grit in the air, it settles in that bark. And what those guys found with those crosscut saws is if you start cutting that bark, it dulls the blade very, very quickly. And those guys got paid by the tree. So having a tool that was sharp was very, very important. If you dulled your tool at the beginning of the workday, and that may be a tool that you'd have to work with the entire week, you would really be in a bad spot because you'd have what they called the old misery whip. And when you got paid by the tree, if you could cut down less trees or 2 or 3 fewer because of a dull saw, that was money out of your pocket. So the guys would go out, and one guy would have the double bit of axe. And the reason for the 2 blades on the double bit of axe was one was sharpened at a kind of a steep angle, a kind of a utility angle. And that was for durability. A blade that's sharpened like this is going to stay sharper longer than a blade that's sharpened like this. You take a knife that you want to sharpen for your EDC. That it just needs to be tough. You may be prying open paint cans, you may be doing whatever. That's going to be something that you want to have a durable edge on. Maybe not the sharpest knife on the drawer, but at least it's going to stay sharp longer. Where your kitchen knives, where you're cutting tomatoes and you want it to be absolutely sharp, those are going to be very, very narrow. Well, your axes were ground that way as well. So the guy would go around with his axe using the utility edge and ring that whole tree and take out the bark. And as soon as he got that off, then the other 2 guys would start in with the crosscut saw. Start with the crosscut saw and into that fresh, clean wood. Now, what Granddad told me, he said, we would rest on the axe. And I didn't know what that meant. I asked him to explain it. And he said, well, when you pulling that crosscut saw with your partner all day, that's where the real work was. And when one guy got tired, you would rotate out and you would jump on the axe and you'd start chopping out the backs cut. It would actually rest on the axe. And I thought, that's really something. That really is a testimony of how soft we've become, because I never have found it to be restful chopping down a tree with an axe. Even small trees, like a 12-inch tree, I've got to stop, usually start shedding clothes in about 3 minutes, and then a couple breaks and some water breaks, and then two hours later you might have the thing down. We're just not as tough as we used to be. Goodness, we have a very generous super chat from Tim Caldwell and double alternator member. Shout out to you, Tim. I sure do appreciate that. It's very generous of you. Tim says, brothers carry at all times. Had some evildoers attempt to breach the house and try to run me over. Was able to disable the vehicle, and the deputies took out the trash. Family is a little rattled, and we would have requested some prayers. Thank you. Yeah, Tim, Mrs. W and Tim sent the email about that story tonight to us that I got last night when I got home from halfway. And Mrs. W and I were reading about that. I was going to respond to you tonight. So what happened, just like he said, is that he came home, and I think he's even said his daughters were in the house. Some guys came in and tried to, who knows what they were up to. And Tim, as a CCW guy, actually got 2 shots off in the car, and one, I think, said maybe one towards the tire and one towards the engine compartment. And he had sent me a letter and asked for prayers and was really rattled. I can't even imagine. I had a scary experience the other night that turned out to be nothing, but it really put a fine point on, you can get lax. Sometimes you get some new gear, or you watch a video, or you hear something, or you take a training course, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get myself squared away. I'm going to make sure I carry all the time. I'm going to have the right stuff. I'm going to practice, and you kind of get your head in the game, and you think about what you're going to do in any given situation the best that you can, because you never really know. But familiarity breeds contempt. After a while, we just kind of, you get lax, and, well, nothing's really happened to me for 3-6 months, and then maybe you stop caring a little bit, or instead of, you go to the convenience store or the restaurant, instead of strapping it on, you throw it in the glove box or in the center console because you think, oh, this is a pretty nice neighborhood. You just never know. And what happened to me the other night, so my sister Corinne had come up from so she's going to school in Northern California, and she came up, and I took her out to dinner. And we went to dinner at a place that was probably about 40 minutes from my house. We met there, and we had a nice time and said our goodbyes. I dropped her off at the house, and the baby was with me. And so on our way home, we stopped to get gas. That was the only stop that I made on the way back up to the house, which was about 45-minute drive. Well, we were driving up there, and of course, I'm always CCW, but I didn't have it on me. Sometimes I take it off and I'll put it in a bag that I carry, or I'll lock it in the center console. It's just not comfortable to wear all the time. So I had done that, and I didn't even take it into the restaurant, which I will not make that mistake again. I just left it in the truck, and I thought, I just don't want to deal with it. I know the people around here. You just never know. So I locked it in the console, right? Well, the baby and I were driving home, and we're coming down our driveway, and just talking and not paying attention. And there's all of a sudden I look up, and there's a strange car in the driveway, and I thought, what in the, parked right in front of my house. And then I see inside, someone's inside the house, and Mrs. W and Jack are at the debate. They're out of town, so I know it's not them. I don't recognize this car. And man, it freaked me out. And I've got my daughter with me, and I hadn't considered that. I always thought, find myself in a situation like that, you go in there and take care of business. But I hadn't dawned on me, no, my number one priority has got nothing to do with this house or possessions. My number one priority is to take care of this little girl that's with me, right? So I'm faced with this. I pulled up. I wasn't expecting it. It caught me off guard. It's late. It's like 10 o'clock at night. There's a stranger inside my house. There's a strange car parked in front of me. And now I'm in the dark in the cab trying to figure out what to do. And I'm trying to get in my center console. And, it's just, everything's just not working out very good at all. I'm just wasting time. And I'm also, my daughter's picking up on how disturbing this is to me, and she's starting to, she's feeling it, and she's starting, to get nervous and coming over it. And the whole thing was just turning into a dumpster fire. Like the guy that's supposed to be super prepared, I'm like, forget it. I just put it in reverse. I'm just going to back out. I'm going to back out, and I had my phone right there, and I still couldn't get, in my truck, I've got a center console, but it has a vault in there. It's a factory vault that has a 4-digit code on there, and they're the little roller wheels. It's mechanical. But I got my stupid contacts on, so I can't see up close, and I'm trying to get down there in the dark, and my flashlight's in there, and I can't see it, and I can't get the numbers out. I mean, it was a real lesson for me of what not to do. The only thing I could really think to do was I backed out. Our driveway's long. It's probably 100 yards long or so. I backed out, and I got on the phone, and I called my buddy down, which is, we've kind of talked about helping each other if these things happen. And I just said, hey, there's someone in my house. There's a strange car parked in the driveway. I've got the baby with me. I need some backup. I don't know what's going on here. This is a bad situation. He's like, I'll be there in 2 minutes. And well, what happened was it was my sister, and it didn't dawn on me that I had just dropped her off at her house 40 minutes away. There would be absolutely no reason why. I know what her car looks like, but it didn't even dawn on me that it would be her. And it was her. She had left her phone in my truck, and she realized it immediately. She couldn't call me because she didn't have the phone. We had stopped for gas, and in so doing, she got ahead of us and was a couple minutes ahead of us because of the gas, and we had that whole fiasco. So that was really eye-opening for me, and man, you got to have things sorted out. You got to have routines. You cannot be doing something one time and then being lax and just not being consistent with it in this time and age. And just like we saw right here from Tim, I don't think Tim was expecting to have to actually have a shootout with bad guys that morning, and I can only imagine what. I can imagine how frightening that would be, especially having your children in the house, where you had to really go hands-on and take it to the next level. I didn't get to that point, but I felt it. I understand the fear because I thought it was real. I thought, what I was experiencing was real, and I'll have to really evaluate my systems and be more consistent with that. But goodness, I apologize for that, and we will definitely keep you in our prayers. That is something that is not easy to get over, and the trauma and just the emotional trauma that comes from that is tremendous. He was saying in the letter that he sent me that they had been, I think, if I remember right, are you in Florida? He was saying that they'd been considered getting out of there and moving out, and I'll bet you that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But man, that is some scary, scary stuff. Sorry about that. That's terrible. Jason's clarified. Thank you, Jason. Shout out to you. Jason says, it's an EC joke, granola, crunchy hippie. That is so funny you say that. Yeah, we'll have to do a granola. I'm becoming, I always get accused of being right-wing and a Trump supporter, which I am not. Like many of you, the reason why a lot of us were excited about Trump and something different, because we thought that this guy was not an insider. We thought that we were going to get someone that was going to, drain the swamp. It wasn't an endorsement of his particular character. There's a lot of people that they're just so one-dimensional. They just can't see anything, and if you do this, you have to be this way. They need to put you in a category. It wasn't that at all. There were many of us that doesn't support him and his bragging and all of that. It was the least evil, right? At the time, after we saw, the way he conducted himself in the lost opportunity, and he was, just the dirtbag like all the rest of them, and that the whole system is useless and should just be scrapped and abandoned, that we still get lumped in with that. But the more, I was telling Mrs. W, I've been all part of organized religions basically my whole life, from the Christian cult that I grew up in. That's an powerful indoctrination, especially when they use Christianity to control people and they use it as fear. And when it's all you've ever known, most people could never break out of it. Me and my sister broke out of that for some unknown reason that I won't know until I'm in the kingdom and God explains it to me, because the majority of the folks I grew up with are still there and still in it, and their lives are wrecked from it. They never could disassociate. I've had a lot of those members that ultimately had left later on that have tried to reach out to me, and they've formed these groups where they want to get together, and all they do is sit around and bitch about how terrible the experience was and how it ruined their life. And they try to bring me into this, and so I can come in there and commiserate with them. And I don't want anything to do with that. I mean, that is some poison that you don't want to get involved with. Yeah, there was some bad things, but there was also some good things. And without that, I don't know if I would even be in a position that I'm in now. It was very good for me to experience that, because a lot of what I learned and the traditional values that I've had, and I got to see what it looks like, people that, living in a tight community, and how I can see the contrast of that compared to what it is now. And I can see the importance of having that, and that is a better way. And then I moved on and got involved with the Adventist Church for several years, and that was also a big benefit to me. And I'm not a member of it anymore, but I received a tremendous education, and it was the place that I needed to be. It was a place where people really put an emphasis on Scripture, of reading it and talking about it and understanding it, and they really tried to hold true to it. And again, I don't adhere to everything, but there was a lot of wonderful people and a lot of really good friendships. And Mrs. W and I were saying that was a tremendous benefit to us. It really gave us a really good, solid understanding of Scripture, the Bible, that benefits us tremendously today. Mrs. W and I had a long business meeting this morning that we really laid out what our plan is. And I always come up with, we usually were together traveling, but this was a rare situation where I had a long drive, like a 6.5-hour drive one way. That was by myself, and that gives you a lot of time to think. And I seem to do some of my best thinking when I was in that. And I was really thinking about what I want to do in the future and what that looks like, and what I was telling her, and what I decided was, as we move forward, I want to be very, very careful about where truth comes from. And I don't want to be dogmatic. It's a fine and difficult line to walk, to hold to the core principles that you know are right, your traditional family values and biblical-based understanding and teaching. That's important not to stray from that. But it's also important to realize that truth and new insights might come from places that you never expected. We were watching, I've been doing this Wim Hof cold shower thing now I've done it every day. And I can tell you I don't know what day we're on, whatever, 7, 8, 9. I did it when I was on the road. I'm to the point now, and this was yesterday. Yesterday was the first day that I took 2 cold showers in one day. I took one in the morning, and I took one in the evening. If you would have told me that I would have done that even 2 weeks ago, I would have laughed in your face. But what I've understood that this is such an incredible thing. When you mix these cold showers, and then immediately go into the Wim Hof breathing program, the whole thing takes about 15 minutes. The benefits of this are just astonishing. One thing that when I sleep in a bed that's not my own, I have a lot of trouble. It takes me 2 or 3 nights to kind of get settled in. I don't sleep well at all. I might sleep an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that was the case when I was in Halfway. It was a new place I'd never been before. You have the excitement of the next day, and you need energy for a long snow bike day when you're going to be out, in the back country with that. It's a tremendous drain on your body. And I was really, really concerned, like, I got to sleep. It's almost the point where I needed to bow out of it, because I just don't know that I'm going to be able to be focused enough. This is so dangerous, and I need to be on my A game. I just don't know that I got enough sleep to do this. I was, kind of sitting on the fence and wondering if it was even going to happen. Got up absolutely exhausted. It was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like, it's just pointless. There's no coffee around. There's nothing. I'm like, what in the world am I going to do? Well, I guess I might as well just go in there and suck it up and take my cold shower. Took my cold shower, laid down, relaxed, did my breathing exercises. Man, it was like I'd had the best sleep of my life. Just incredible energy. I felt amazing. I went in the whole day, no problem. Just one of the best days I've ever had. Just abundance of energy, positive attitude, and I attribute it to that. It's like a cheat code. It's like going through the day with superpowers. I cannot overemphasize it. It just goes. It shocks me. It shocks me. I know my body. I know what I'm capable of. I know the energy levels I have. It is amazing. I'll tell you the truth, and this is very bizarre, but I was about halfway home. I was coming through a little bit more Boardman, and I was getting tired. You know how it is when you're driving. It's just fatiguing, especially when you're pulling a trailer and the wind's blowing and all that. And I was looking, the river's on the right, the Columbia River's on the right side right there to the north. I was actually looking for a spot. Like, if I could find a spot where I could get easy river access, I'm going to go down there right now, strip off my clothes, and I'm going to jump in there and swim around for 3 minutes. I was going to do it if I could have found it. But when I got home, I did, it's amazing. It is truly amazing. The benefits of this are incredible. But the point I was trying to make is that I was telling Mrs. W about my experience. She's skeptical, and I said, let me show you some videos, some testimonials, because testimonials are the best thing. Testimonials from real people that have been cured of diseases or have injuries are very powerful because it's authentic. It's not marketing. It's not someone trying to sell you something. It's just authentic. It's the most truest form. That's why the Christian testimony, when you share your testimony, what God did for you, is a very powerful way to reach people, because it's true, and people know when you're speaking the truth. So I was showing her these testimonies and different things, and that led into watching a couple of his videos. And I said, you know what, baby? I said, I wouldn't ask this of you if I didn't think it was important, but I want you to go through this 10-week program with me. He's got a 10-week program, and I didn't know what it was. We just watched so many testimonies of folks that have went through it, and I just thought, you know, what do we got to lose? And we were in the car, and you know, she doesn't know anything about this. You know, I'm super excited. You can imagine she's looking very skeptical about it, and I'm trying to convince her. And I just said, you know, I wouldn't do this if I didn't think it was important, but I want you to do this with me. It's only 10 weeks, and if you don't like it after that, then I won't ever say a thing about it. You know, I'll go on doing my own thing. But she decided to do it with me. So the point I want to get to is that one of the videos that we were watching, and I don't know his background, you know, I don't know if he's a Christian or what have you, but I do believe that there are people that God uses to give information to folks that could come from places that you don't expect. And in the past, if someone had not met the criteria of my particular dogma, or I saw something that I thought was heresy, I probably would have just discounted that message, that it didn't have any value and they were a heretic and I need to avoid it and stay away from it. And I think that mentality really comes from the way I was raised in a Christian cult. A member of our group was a threat to us, and it should be feared and have nothing to do with it. It's dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. You know, now I can see that was a way of just controlling people. And how many opportunities did I miss out on friendships or experiences because things I saw maybe I didn't understand in my ignorance, that I just feared them and I was afraid to even try and look into. And as we were watching one of these videos, you know, he's talking about this program and I'm sharing the things that I've been doing that have been so beneficial to me. And there's like a Buddha or something, an Eastern statue in his garden. You know, in the past, that would have been it for me. I would have seen that, and I would have turned it off like, oh no, I can't get involved with any Eastern religions or anything like that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to compromise what I believe to be true. I have to react to that. I'm not going to bring a little here and bring a little there. This is not Unitarianism here. This is Bible-based. I want to know the truth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit on things that I don't understand. If I don't understand something, I'm not going to immediately discount it. I'm going to investigate it. I'm going to see if it is in parallel with the teachings of Christ, with the teachings of the 66. And if there's knowledge to be found in different areas, it's foolish not to keep your eyes open for those things. I mean, do we really think we talk? I mean, I've said it a million times. You know, people ask, well, what about people that don't know Christ? Are they going to be saved? Well, what does the Bible tell us? The Bible tells us that God says, I've written my law upon their hearts. Every man, every woman, what is the difference between right or wrong has been written upon our hearts, regardless of whether you've even heard of the Bible or Jesus. Are you really going to say that God doesn't have people in the East or in Africa or in situations even before Christ that never knew him that won't be in the kingdom? Are we so arrogant in the West to think that men who have been devout men that have prayed and lived in monasteries and have handed down knowledge and wisdom from generations, that there isn't something of some benefit there, that God hasn't worked with those people, that they don't have something to offer? So for us, as we're so foolish, you know, I used to think that the West was the best and the Western cultures were the best. It's not. The more I read and the more I understand and look into the way things are and what our society is doing and what America produces and the garbage and the trash that we spread out and how much we consume, I'm starting to realize that, you know what, we should not be the teachers. We should be learning. That a lot of the things that we have done has been a plague upon society. You know, I'm like you. I used to support law enforcement. I used to, you know, of course, the military could do no wrong. But really, let's look at it honestly. What have we accomplished in the Middle East over the last 3 decades, apart from just murder a lot of people? And for what? For money and for greed. And I'm not bagging on the soldiers. The soldiers went in there with the best of intentions, just like I tried to get into the military twice. We wanted to help. We thought we were doing was good. And most of the guys over there, I think, had the best of intentions. But the leadership, the politicians, got us involved in things that we shouldn't have been involved in. And it's a tragedy. And now finally some of us are starting to wake up. It's like, you know what? Maybe we should be spending less time telling people how to live their lives and more time learning and undoing some of the terrible, terrible programming that we've all been subject to. God is pouring out knowledge on people right now, and I feel very privileged to be part of this. I was fearful of the future up until recently, until I really got back and made it an emphasis to connect with God and recommitted myself to do this work. But it's exciting, gentlemen. It's exciting to be one of those called to do the work. And so I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to shut off any doors or any avenues that God may be able to bring an insight or information or a new way of seeing things that that people could be helped. Because when it comes to Wim Hof, it doesn't matter where he stands regarding his faith. What matters is results. And he's getting results. He's helping people. And what was Christ's ministry? What was it? What method did he use to spread the gospel and to get people in a position where they would be teachable and willing to learn? He did it through healing folks, and he did it through ailments and that even people that most people I think probably came to him not because they wanted to hear preaching, but they came to him because someone, a family member or word got out that there was a man that was healing folks and that they had a disease or they had something that was bothering them or they had a sick kid. And that's why they came. And after you heal someone, then they're in a position to be taught. And that's when they would sit down and hear the gospel. So I would never discount anything he's doing. He's getting results and he's changing people's lives. He's changed my life in just 10 days. And I just don't even know where the limit is or where the end of that is. Just the incredible, incredible transformation that I'm receiving from this simple method. And I haven't even scratched the surface of it. So that comment about a granola that you made is apropos because, yeah, I definitely am getting more that way, more like my sister was, and less rigid with the right wing and go military and go U.S. No, I'm all done with that. I'm checking out of all that. The rest of my life, however many years I have, the 30, 40 years, is going to be spent on relationships, about, actually meeting people where they're at and getting information that I can. And I would love to emulate that. And I will always give credit to that. I told Mrs. W, I said, I don't think it's any coincidence that this property has a river on it. It very well may be when we open this up, Lord willing, we can have this going sooner than later and folks start coming, that we can build a facility where maybe Mrs. W and I be down there and you guys can come and join us and jump in and fill these benefits. But if that's what it means to be a granola, then I'll have it because that's the way God leads. All right, I'm going to switch over to my app. Sorry, guys, I wasn't seeing them there, so here we go. We have our super chats here. Great. Jason Barr. Oh, this is great. Brian M. Shout out to you, Brian. We got that. Okay, we have a super chat from Jezza 4300, and he writes, day 4 of the cold 3-minute showers. I haven't read this, but I'm excited to read it because I hope you're experiencing what I am. First one, my body breathing freak out was hilarious. I'm going to go 4 minutes Saturday. I told Mrs. W, the first time I did that, it took me to get in the cold water for the first time. It took me the better part of an hour. And I would turn the shower on and I would turn it off. And I'd turn it on and I'd turn it off. And I'd try to come up with all these head games. And I did not, I cannot tell you my aversion to that, how much I didn't want to do that. Finally, I need some help. I need some encouragement. I went and pulled up Wim. He had a short video of him doing it, and he's giving encouragement. I actually pulled that thing up there and put it in the shower. I jumped in. I jumped in that thing, and I almost screamed. I was shouting. I was so happy that the kids and everyone was outside because they definitely would have heard me, and I didn't tell them what I was doing. I was dying to death in there. It was terrible. 3 minutes. I was jumping around, dancing around. I was Terrible, terrible. And then now, I look forward to it. I'm going to go, I think I'll go do one after this. I might do this 3 times a day. It gets better. It definitely gets better. Day 5, the shivers completely went away, and I started to, day 6, I started to crave it. Day 6 or day 7. And now I look forward to it. Like I'm actually looking forward to doing it. And I've been doing it. I did one yesterday, 6 minutes. I was feeling so good in that cold shower, rotating around. I even got my arms up and I'm washing. I'm doing the whole, before I was all hunkered up like a turtle, trying to keep some body heat in. Not anymore, man. I'm all in. I got my head going. I'm washing the pits. I'm doing everything. Well, I reached up to pause it, or I think pause it or do something. I had the phone in there. And you know how when water gets on the screen, it messes all up. Well, it jumped backwards and started over. And I thought, what the heck? We'll go 6, and I did, and I doubled it up. So it's amazing. It is amazing. Oh, the thumbs up on the chat, guys. That is really helpful. That's the way to do it. We have a super chat from Dom Beeps. Shout out to you, Dom. And he writes, new member. Congratulations, new members and existing members. We did a members only live stream last Sabbath that was super fun. It was I was reluctant to do it because the baby and I were sitting by the fire and having a nice time, and I thought, well, I'll just pop open the laptop and, as Overton said this morning, Owen Benjamin style, and just go right off the computer. And I was worried that the quality wasn't going to be good enough, but everyone said, we don't care. That was awesome. And it was one of the most fun super chats of live streams that I've ever done. It was like the old days. We had just a small group of just the members. I think there was like 40, 45 of us in there. It was very intimate and very fun in the house, and I think I'm going to try to make an effort to do that. So that will be an incentive. If you want to join that and be part of that, you can become a member and you'll get a notification, and we'll try to make that a possibility. I'm going to check with Mrs. W, but I think we should be able to do it this coming weekend, and she will be joining us. So bring your wives, come and hang out with us. It was super fun. So come and join us for that. I'll put, you'll get a notification. And thank you for becoming a member. Dom writes, do you have any recommendations for outdoor padlocks? I've replaced the crummy master lock on my shed too many times. Thank you. Yes, I went to the, I think is it a German brand? Maybe someone can put a link to their site. I think it's ASUS. ASUS. I was having the same problem. Those American-made master locks are trash. And ABUS, ABUS, I believe it is. They have multiple levels, from consumer level, and then you can go up to professional, homeowner grade, or industrial. But they seem to be, when I looked into it myself, this was a couple years ago, I made the investment in those padlocks, and I've been very happy with them. I have a lot of them outside, and they seem to weather better. They seem to work better, harder to pick, better materials, but yeah, and way tougher. ABUS. I believe it's ABUS. Maybe one of the guys could throw that in there if you can find it. I know I'm close. But I would try that. Thank you, Don. Shout out to you. We have a super chat from Tough Firefighter. Shout out to you, Tough. And he writes, I never knew how hard content creation was until I tried it myself. Much respect to you. Any tips for those trying to grow a new channel from scratch? It is hard. Yeah, and if you read the comments, you'll see every video. Get a job, you loser. Go get a real job. And it's always kind of funny. I laugh. Like this, it is a real job. It's a full-time job. I work just as hard as anyone else does. I might not be out, in the digging trenches anymore, or building houses and stuff like a lot of you guys do. But I work hard. We all work hard. And I think next to stand-up comedy, live streaming might be the most difficult job in the world. It might be even more difficult than stand-up comedy. I haven't tried stand-up, but I can imagine that would be absolutely brutal. As far as content, I can give you the recipe for success. Starting with the technical side of it, it's really, really important to have clean audio, good audio, and that's a bit of a learning curve. I would not skimp on audio. I would get a lav mic, and I don't know what your budget is. If you're on a budget, get a lav mic, start with a Rode. RODE. Made in Australia. They have different models, but just get the little ones. They're easy to use. You can clip them on. You can pass them back and forth. If you need a dual mic setup, you can get them where they have two. You can clip one on your wife, or if you're going to do an interview, it plugs into you can use your phone. It plugs into cameras. It's very simple to use. I used them for years, and it changes the way you relate to your subscribers. If you put a microphone on a camera, what you'll find you'll do is you'll be projecting your voice. Let's say you want to share something. Let's say I want to share about, we're going to make a beautiful, improve our Grand Force Brooks axe handle here, and we're doing a thing and we're talking about it. We're sharing what we know, right? Well, when the microphone's too far away, you're trying to project your voice, and it doesn't seem very intimate. What I noticed when I first went with a lav mic, and it was the best thing I ever did, is that you can just be talking a normal voice, and you can be right there with what you're doing. And when I make videos, I actually think you guys are in the camera and standing all around me. I mean, it's weird, but I just think that. So when I'm talking and I'm sharing, and like someone's looking over my shoulder, and I want to talk in a normal voice, that's a good way to do it. It's a very intimate connection. And it's the best way to go. Clean audio is very, very important. Of course, lighting and stuff. The camera work is not near as important as the audio. I will watch a video that is poorly lit, or even in 480 or even 240. I've watched 240 if the audio is clean. That's the main thing. As far as cameras go, get a DSLR. Or if you have a late model phone, a phone can work, but they're problematic. I'd get a dedicated camera and just get a Canon, something like a D70 or D80. Just go a couple generations back, because you've got the camera bugs that are always buying the latest things and turning the old stuff. And those cameras are amazing, because they basically go obsolete for guys that are really into it every 12 months or 18 months. And you can get deals on those. Get a good DSLR. They'll have good battery time. They receive microphones really good, and I would do that, and a tripod, and you're good to go. Make sure you provide for wind screens, dead cats or fuzzies on there if you're going to be in the outside. But when it comes to content, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you are excited about it. It really is about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. And I don't script stuff. I just turn on the camera. I don't even know, in the past, I didn't even know. When I decided to live stream, I just decided to do it and turn it on. Because you just feel moved. There's something you want to talk about, or there's something that you want to share. And that, whatever it is you're excited about will come through. And people enjoy that because it's authentic and it's real. So whatever it is, don't try to manufacture something. You can get away from it with it for a while, but if you want to do it for the long haul and do it for a long time, it's just simple. You just share what you're into. And don't be afraid to change the format. Make sure you don't get stuck in something. If you're just going to do video games, or people would say, it's laughable, oh, I miss your axe videos. How many axe videos can a guy do? I've been doing this for 13 years. I still do them. I do them. If I share an axe video, it's because I'm doing axe handle, not because I need something to do. It's far and few in between, because I've moved on from that. I have my axes, they're done. If I break one, or I get something new I'm excited about, or something rare I haven't had or been looking for, then I'll do that. Or sometimes personal requests, if someone will ask, that I'm happy to do that as well with enthusiasm. But that's what I would recommend. You can't lose. And you can't go in for it for profit, or thinking, I'm just going to do this to make money. You will fail. You just need to say, I'm going to go into it because I enjoy sharing something, or I have a unique insight or a skill, or I just like the community. I enjoy watching content. I want to pay the community back by producing my own and give something of value. And go in it like that, and if you stay consistent, just keep uploading. Even when you don't want to, you have to be consistent. Then that's what you need to do. I had a meeting with, my right-hand man is Overton Windex here, and he's doing a lot of good work for the channel as well as the other mods. And I brought in a small group to help me out, to help carry the load. And he's my point man. And one of the things, we were having a really nice conversation on the phone this morning, and I was asking him some questions about, what do you guys like to see? And I want feedback. Because what I told the guys on the stream the other day was, I was concerned that I went a little too hard on a couple topics, and I can get in a passion about things. And I was wondering, and I felt like maybe I went too hard at the end of that last live stream. And I said, I want you guys, I need counsel. I don't have the maturity level that I would have hoped I would have at 53. And I can get myself into a tizzy and just go too hard on things and not realize what's going on. And I need, the good book tells us that there's safety in counselors. There's a reason why kings and not that I'm a king or anything, but by people that were making decisions or had a platform, there's a reason why wise ones will surround themselves with smart men that they trust to make sure that they don't get off the path, that they don't get going the wrong way, because your friends and trusted brothers, when you go astray, they're going to let you know. And I told these guys, I said, there's not going to be any hurt feelings here. My ego's out of this. If I'm not going hard enough, or if I'm not going too hard or something, I want you guys to know. I need the feedback. I need to know what the feeling is. And one of the questions I asked Overton was like, what do you guys like to see? Do you like to see this, or do you like to see that? And he gave me the perfect answer, which I knew before I even asked. I shouldn't even ask. Was it's important for you to do what you want to do. If that's shorts, do shorts. If that's long, And I think that's the best policy. That's the advice that I would give you. We have a super chat from Mr. Richard Johnson. Shout out to you, Richard. Richard says, I had to take cold showers for a few months because we couldn't afford the NG payments. Well, there you go. See, that's going to prepare you for the hard times. What I've realized in this short journey with my introduction to the cold is that being comfortable makes you weak. People are going to think I'm crazy. I probably am going crazy, but I'm going to ride. It's ride or die around here. I'm going to go full crazy if I have to. I was in my bed the other night, and thinking about I woke up early. I was thinking about the showers and how I thought it was something that I thought I could never do. And within 6 or 7 days, not only was I doing it, but I'm relishing it. I'm enjoying it and looking forward to it. I would have never thought that possible. And it makes you wonder, how many times in life did I quit early, right on the cusp of doing something great, because of fear, because I was afraid to, or I was afraid that I was going to lose some comfort, or it was going to change something, my routine that I'd gotten accustomed to. How many opportunities have we missed out on? And I was thinking, I was laying there in my Mrs. W and I have a Tempur-Pedic mattress, and every night we're like, oh, is this not the best bed? It's just the most comfortable. She was gone, Nebraska, and I was in there by myself, and I thought, yeah, this is comfortable. And I had this strong urge, this desire to sleep on a hard surface. And I literally crawled out of bed, laid down my Pendleton blanket, and laid on it and spent the rest of the night on the floor. and I loved it. And I thought, you know what? Maybe we have become too soft. Maybe a little bit of hardship and difficulty is the recipe for all the troubles. When you don't have any adversity in your life and everything's going along perfectly, you start looking for things to complain about. That's why we have this epidemic of Karens. Their life we men have made these women's life so easy and so comfortable that they have nothing to fear, nothing to worry about, and so they got so much time on their hands, all they can do is find things to bitch about and complain. And it's not just fall on the Karens either, that falls on us. This is a powerful message. Getting in the cold water, the cold shower, and overcoming that starts to work in your mind in a way. It's like, well, if I can do that, then what else can I do? Can I get up a little bit earlier? Can I get a few more things done around the house? I don't know where this is going, but it's going to a good place. It's going to a good place. And I'm bringing you along if you like it or not. Take the damn cold shower. As I said, if you're too much of a puss to do a 3-minute cold shower with me every morning in the Wim Hof breathing method, go online, download the app. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. Then how are you going to survive real adversity? Because do you think adversity is not coming to this country? I was so bummed like towards the end of summer, I told you I was really getting depressed and really questioning my faith. And I saw, I thought, man, is this going to come to is everything going to come to an armed conflict? Is it really going to be that way? And I was so upset that my physical condition, I've got some injuries and some things that I, have struggled with. And I thought, am I going to be physically able to even participate in this? I'm like, what's going to, what's going to happen? And it was just troubling me. I was worrying about it. I was like, I wished I even said to some younger friends that I have that, that are like-minded, that we're around here trying to kind of come up with plans. Like, man, I envy you. I wish I was 30 years younger, that I could participate in the strength of my youth, and just be the best I could be, if indeed it comes to something like that. But just in the 8, 9, 10 days of the potential and the healing potential of past injuries and things, and I'm not going to make any promises, and I'm not going to say anything about it until it manifests. But I believe that I'm going to be able to work through some things. And I believe that I even at 53, that I can, in 10 weeks, that I can be stronger and more and have the capabilities that I never dreamed of in my 20s. I really believe that to be true. I believe it 1,000%. If just the small improvements and benefits that I've seen in this short amount of time, if that is indicative of what I have to look forward to, and it's not just that. It's the change in attitude. When I was going into the black pill hard, and when you go into that and sadness and negativity and depression, your whole life starts to implode. Everything starts to go backwards and backslide. It's just, I don't know if it's just a universal truth. I don't know if it's the grieving of the spirit. I don't know, but I do know that a positive mindset and hope and a good attitude changes everything. My food tastes better. I'm excited. I'm jumping out of bed. I can't wait to get in the cold shower. I'm looking forward to the day. Instead of, all the work and the things I have to do and all this, I'm looking forward to it. That optimism, that excitement, that enthusiasm, and having a goal and something to work towards, and realize, no, I'm not going to lay down and die. Yeah, I'm 300 pounds overweight. I drink too much. I smoke too much. I've let myself go. I'm just about to just get old and sit in my chair and push me in the corner and put a blanket on my lap. I mean, you can manifest that to happen at 50. I mean, you can make that decision and it will happen. Or you can no, I might not be an Olympic athlete, but at least I don't have to be dead. I can still be useful to my family. I could still make a difference in the world. I could have a richer and fuller life. Just do it, brothers. Just do it. I don't care what obstacles. I don't care how many times you failed. I've done the same thing as well. There's something to this. I'm excited about it, and it's changed lives. I'm late to this, and I'll give credit where credit's due. This has got nothing to do with me. Guys have figured this out way before me, but it's amazing. It's amazing. We have a super chat from Jason Barr. Member for 2 years, shout out to you, Jason, who says, if us that reside in the great Babylon think we have it all figured out, well, Revelation 1:1, there is more to be revealed. Indeed, there is. You know what? We are Babylon. That's what I realized. I used to think that I was, a moderate Christian, and, I've said a thing or two, and, maybe profess Christ in a video once in a while. I wasn't even close. I didn't have a clue. We need to be fierce, fearless soldiers for the gospel. The men that are going to be called out to do the work in the final days, you know what Christ told us? He was working miracles. He's got his disciples around him. He's healing people. He's bringing Lazarus up from the dead. I mean, just incredible things. Walking on water, feeding the 5,000. And they're just marveling at this, just as you could imagine. And he says, oh, you think this is cool? I'll tell you the truth. The people that I call in the final days, they'll do a lot greater things than these. And that's what we're starting to see. We are seeing God calling his people out. If you're here, a lot of you may be in that situation. We have a responsibility. We can't just lay down and die. We can't just sit down and just expect God to do anything. God's record of dealing with man in the 66 books is a partnership. It is us taking steps in faith and him compensating. We do what we can do, and he fills in the gap. He promises he'll never allow us he'll never ask more of us than we're able to do. He'll never allow us to be tempted more than we're able to resist. And he says we can do all things. So when we look at that, if we're living in the end times, if we are going to be the men and women that are bringing in the second coming, we have these promises, and we have to prepare ourselves. A soldier he goes through boot camp. He gets himself in physical shape, best he can do, because his physical conditioning very well may determine whether he lives or dies, or whether he has the ability to save his comrades. And that's on him. The Army will give you a rifle, but you're in charge of some things, and we're in charge of that as well, and we need to be. And again, this is not a physical battle. I don't advocate any violence. God's army is not going to bring in violence. This is a spiritual battle. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the spiritual side. And having a healthy body, this vessel that he has given us, it comes with a responsibility. He says, don't you know that this body, it's not yours, that it's a gift, it belongs to me, and how we treat it, and how what we feed it, and how we take care of it, we'll give an account for that. We're not sinless by just letting ourselves go. And we weren't all given the same abilities. Some people were born with disabilities. God understands that. He'll compensate. But you still have an obligation. You can't just put trash in your body. There was a time, even a few years ago, where a lot of the things that we ate and did, and the lifestyles that we participated in, God says, I winked at their discretion. Might get a pass, because we were in our ignorance. When we were, as a Generation X, when we were forced in the third grade to drink and swish fluoride in public school to keep us dormant and docile, because they didn't have access to ADHD drugs to dumb down all the boys. Can we be guilty of that? We didn't know. Our parents probably didn't know, but we don't have that excuse anymore. We understand that when you go to a grocery store, that everything in the interior, in the middle, most of it is all trash, and that you need to be buying around the edges. We don't have an excuse. There is no. We have information. You have the whole knowledge of the world at your fingertips. And if you are overweight and unhealthy and not taking care of yourself, I think it's time to sort that out. Unless you don't want to be a participant and you want to fall with the rest of the Babylonians. But I, for one, do not want to miss out on the kingdom. I want to see you guys there. I want to be there. I want to deliver my family there. And I need to have my game up. I need to have my mind clear. I need to be sober. No more drinking. No more drinking soda. No more sugar. None of that stuff. Everything in moderation. I'm not going to make a pariah of myself or make a spectacle of myself. You go to a birthday party and someone gives you a cupcake or a piece of cake, ice cream, of course you eat it. Don't make a spectacle of yourself. Don't be a stumbling blocker. I'm holier than thou because I'm a vegan or whatever. Be polite. Be respectful for people. The perfect example was when Christ, when Peter was going into the temple. I can go as quickly. He's like, so he goes to the temple, and the guy standing there says, well, doesn't your master pay the entrance fee? Right? And Peter said, well, he was nervous. Well, yes, of course. And when he went back to Christ, he said, why did you do that? Is this not my Father's home? Why should I wouldn't be required to do this. But he said, you know what? Lest they take offense, just go ahead and do it. Let's not make a big spectacle of it. I have no obligation to do this. But just so it's not to make a big deal over something that is not important, not significant, let's not do that. Why tear down all the good work? Why make an enemy before we've even had an attempt to make a friend? So be in love, beloved. Be in love with what truths you find or new insight God gives you. Be guarded and be careful that you understand that there's nothing more insufferable than a new convert to something. And here I am about my cold showers. But you know what I mean. You can hit that so hard with your family, with your friends, that you just blow them out. Keep your damn mouth shut. Preach the gospel every single day and speak if you absolutely must. Lead by example, and be kind, and be considerate towards people. Be loving, compassionate creatures. That's the way we were designed. We were designed to be loving, compassionate creatures, just like our children are. That baby of mine doesn't know a bad person. Now, that comes with problems as well, but it's a lesson to us. She has no hard shell. I've got a hard shell that I built up to protect myself from childhood traumas and people being mean to me and personal insecurities and programming that makes me very difficult to be reached by God, very difficult. To get through that hard shell where she doesn't have it. She is my teacher. She's my teacher. Christ says, unless you become like these little ones, you can't have any part of the kingdom. That wasn't just said for no reason. That's a really important lesson to us. We need to be soft. We need to be kind, compassionate creatures. Us Americans, we're the worst. We've been taught that competition is the best thing you can do. And get out there and work and kick ass and be first place and run the score up and whatever you can do to exalt yourself. Stand on the podium. That's what we laud. That's what we hold up. That's what most of you spend your spare time endorsing. Go sports ball, right? There's no love in competition. There isn't any love in competition. I get that now. To be competitive with friends and family and loved ones, there isn't any love in that. I don't see that with the kids when I watch them play. It doesn't matter, boy or girl, what color. The first thing they do is they run over there and want to share their toys. Or the moment they have a piece of candy, they're sharing it. They're spreading it around to folks. That's what God was talking about. He made us to be kind, compassionate creatures. And the programming that we've received here in the West has done everything from the time we were in grade school to undermine that and to strip that out of us and to turn us into hard. It's sad. You see, I have tried to be a hard man. And working in the construction trades and logging, you see that with all the guys, and we all did it. And it was so sad, we all, if we would have just not done that and just have been kind, compassionate people and open with caring hearts, would have been so much more enjoyable just working side by side with one another. But no, we had to be badass and we had to be hard and we had to be tough and all of that. And I see now that it's all a mask. It's all fake and it's all just a way to protect yourself from things that you've been traumas or things that you've suffered or been hurt just because you don't want to be hurt again because it's awful. And things that we had to experience, bullying and such when we were little kids was awful. And here we are, grown men, afraid to go over and talk to someone or to put your arm around someone or to cry with another man or to share a sorrow because of what they might think of us. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Kind, compassionate creatures, like these little kids. That's what we need to get back to. That's going to be necessary for the remnant. We have to get back to that state. We have to get back. Myself, when I start getting back into that shell and that hardness, what I remind myself, and it brings a tear to my eye every time I do it, is my goal from this day forward for the rest of my life is to be that little boy that loved his granddad. That's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. That I don't want to judge people anymore. I don't know their situations. I don't want to stick to any dogmas. I want to be a kind, compassionate, loving creature the way God intended me to be. And unless we get back to that, then we're in no way going to be able to get into the kingdom. And it's going to be very difficult to do unless you're very deliberate about it and very prayerful about it. But that's what's going to be required of us. And there's going to be very, very few of us that are able to do it. Very, very few. And it's hard to do. It'd be the hardest thing you've ever done, especially if you're a macho, tough guy. My dad was the king of that, and it was so sad that we never really got to know each other because of those walls, those insecurities. And I knew he had the most tender heart of probably any person that I've ever known, but he was not able to show it. He was not able to show it. And it was a direct result of the way his dad was. Those generational curses, brothers. Those generational curses that we pass on and pass on and pass on and just continue to repeat. And they just destroy our lives. Goodness. We don't have to be that way. I'm not going to be that way anymore. If I'm overcome with emotion, I'm overcome with emotion. I'd rather have a soft heart than to be a hard-boiled, miserable old trout. We have a super chat from our friend Spartan219 and new member. Shout out to you, Spartan. Congratulations. He says, good to see you. I'm a manager at a pizza place. I got in trouble for asking someone how you celebrate MLK Day. I'm sick of the pansies who get offended on other people's behalf over everything. Yeah, there's your millennials right there. They are peak, they are the result of peak programming. I realized on my way home what I'm talking about right now, to be able to be a kind, compassionate, caring, and sensitive creature, the way God made us to be. I was having inner dialogue and just marveling, how is it that I was able to come to this understanding and come out of that, come out of the hard, tough guy thing, and be part of this programming where it's every man for himself. And you know, the reason why, and it dawned on me, I realized, is that it was modeled for me. I just barely made it. I was able to have access to the last real human beings before all of the programming and the psychology and all of the nonsense that we see that the millennials have been subjected to through my grandfather. He was one of the last of the generations of real people, where people lived and worked together in community when there wasn't competition. Everyone was in the same boat. Everyone wore the same clothing. You know, it wasn't people posturing and keeping up with the Joneses, and I got to have a bigger house and better this and a newer truck and all of that competition. There's no love in that competition. And that's what this American dream, and I'm guilty of it. I mea culpa, I'm here. I'm sorry. I bought into it as well. I didn't know. I'm sorry, forgive me. There's no love in that. But I saw it. Even though I was born into Babylon, I saw it with my granddad of a pure, real man. The way God intended us to be, a Christian, beautiful man. He was my teacher. I had him for a long time. He was my father when my father wasn't there because he was working a lot. And he is the reason why I made it. He's the reason why I survived the programming and many others didn't, because I that's the only thing I could, that's it. And I understood it. I just finally understood it. And I'll have a debt of gratitude. When I see him in the kingdom, Lord willing, I can't wait to express that gratitude. He's the reason I'm here. He's really the reason I'm here, the number one reason. And not lost. Spartan219. Also, everyone is asking about the grounding bed. All right, should I come clean on the grounding bed? So what I did, if you're just joining me, I saw how I got turned on to this is I felt wanting to be, I didn't know it was grounding at the time, but I felt I wanted to be more connected to the ground. I was just compelled to take my shoes off for no other reason. And that's unnatural for me. And last summer, and now have my shoes off all the time. Even when I drive now, I take my shoes off. I love it. I'm getting a big old rind on the bottom of my feet. It's not as tough as some people, but it's getting tougher. At least I can walk without looking like a complete pansy on the gravel. And I enjoy it. I felt connected. Just a lot of benefits for me personally. I just really enjoy it, and I like it. So I was watching TikTok, and there was an older gentleman. He's probably in his 60s or so. You know, good looking. Seemed like a very rational guy. You know, not a crazy or a loony. And he basically had done what I did. You know, he's like, well, he goes, I heard about this grounding and I looked into it, and I think there might be some health benefits of it, and I've been having some trouble sleeping. So I went to the hardware store and I bought some of this metal tape, and he put it across his bed, then he hooked a wire to it, and he ran a wire outside, and he actually put a copper grounding rod in the ground and slept on it, and said, now I've been doing this for several months and I've never slept better. And I thought, well, I don't sleep well all the time. What have I got to lose? So I did it. And then I looked into it a little bit, and I realized that there were a lot of people doing it. And some guys were just plugging it right into the wall. So I did a video on it. I'm like, well, I'll try it. You know, I don't I don't care if people think I'm crazy. You know, I've made the decision. I'm ride or die here, man. If I'm doing it, I'm going to be sharing it with you. We don't care what other people. We'll let the dead bury their dead. That's going to be my mantra from this day forward. So I put it on there. Was excited about it. Went to bed. Man, I battled that stuff all night. It came unstuck. It stuck on me. And that stuff is sharp, man. When it starts to creep, I roll and I move a lot when I sleep. And before I knew it, I had that stuff stuck on me, and it was jabbing me. And I got up a couple times, and I was trying to get it straightened out. And about 3 a.m., I ripped it all off, and I threw it on the ground, and that was it. There's nothing to tell. I couldn't manage it. I couldn't sleep with it, and I haven't spent the time to come up with a different method. So I'm sorry. There's nothing more to it than that. I tried it. It stuck all over me. It was a disaster. I haven't tried it since. Not very exciting. But thank you, Spartan219. We have a new member, WBLRIE. Shout out to you. And come and see us. You'll get the notification. Come and see us on their members only live stream. It's a good one. We have a super chat from Revan Brummel. Shout out to you, Revan. And Revan writes, I tried to get my hands on a Helco axe. Not a chance. And this is in Germany. So I settled. You didn't settle for a Grand Force Brooks. Tomorrow morning, I will do a cold shower. Maybe in the future, have a dive in the creek. Bless you and your family. Yeah, and you being from Germany, of the Nordic persuasion, that is in your bones. You guys thrive in the cold, and I can only imagine the benefits that you'll receive. All of that ancient wisdom will come back to you. Do it. And you didn't settle. If I had the choice between a Helco, or is my big Helco? Here we go. I do love it. This is the Helco work. A fine German axe among the finest. If I had a choice of this over a traditional Grand Force Brooks splitting axe with a metal collar on it, I would take the Grand Force Brooks. I'll trade you if you want to pay the shipping. My buddy Peter, you've seen him in some videos. He helps. He's the one that helps out with the snow plowing. He drives the little Bobcat. How's it going, Mama? He was having the same question, back and forth, and he settled on the Grand Force. And you made the right choice. Don't think you didn't. You did. I would prefer that one, to be honest. But thank you for that, and happy splitting. Get in that cold water. Get in that cold water, Revan. Mama, don't you know we have a show to do here? And thank you for your generosity. We have a super chat from Andrew Roos. Good to see you back, Andrew. Andrew says, hey, Cody, it's Roos, like house, Rouse. Andrew Rouse. I'm young and own a motel, and I've discovered being self-employed makes it very easy to procrastinate. How do you get yourself going? Well, fear is a good motivator. The good book says, the man who doesn't work, he shall not eat. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't know. I've never suffered from the motivation. You know, I guess for me, my early businesses were so shoestring, and I was so hand to mouth where I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. I didn't have a choice to be lazy. Now, had I had something that was easy that I could like slide or coast on, I probably would have taken advantage of that, and I would have lost the business. So I don't know that I can help you with that, but just understand that the world is a hard place, and no one cares for you except for your family, and even then, not always. The world doesn't care for you, and to replace something like that, if you have a business that's providing for you, if you had to replace it, it would be exceedingly difficult. And if you lose it for lack of effort, or being lazy, or just taking advantage of it, and you have to go back and work by the hour, you will be filled with regret, and you will be very, very sorry. So I would use fear as a motivator, whatever it takes, and until you grow up. You'll get a little bit more maturity and understand how much you have and what an incredible opportunity and benefit that is. It's hard to see when you're young. All you see is the time involved in it and how it's stealing your time from other pursuits or things you want to do. You're just going to have to grow up. You know, the good book tells us when I was a child, I acted as a child, Paul tells us. I played as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And I was thinking about that just yesterday. There's over. I have never been a real online video game player, but over COVID during the lockdowns, when we were all kind of isolated, I got into that a little bit with Jack, and I have no regrets. I got to spend a lot of time with my son, and we had just great times. We used to go when we didn't have fast enough internet. We used to take the adventure van, drive like 40 minutes down in front of a pizza place in town that had free Wi-Fi, and him and I we had 2 laptops, and we would sit in the adventure van and play Apex Legend until 2:00 in the morning and order pizza. I mean, it was so awesome. We didn't have internet, and that's what we did. It was important to him, and it was a way for us to spend time together, and it was super fun, and I enjoyed it. But with that being said, when you see now the work that needs to be done, and God is just revealing so many truths and calling us out of the world, there just isn't time for those things anymore. And I just don't have a passion for it. And I've realized that text. When you become a man, it's time to put away childish things and to grow up and do man things. So I guess you just have to, whatever you have to do, just appreciate what you have, because that's an amazing opportunity that a lot of people would give a tremendous amount to have right now, I assure you. But thank you for that. Shout out to you. Noel Hastings, shout out to you. Good to see you here. As a budget option, how about the Husqvarna axes? Yeah, the Husqvarna axes are good. I have several of them. The steel and the forging seems to be on par with the Grand Force, but you just don't get a lot of the finishes. So what you're buying, when you're getting the axe head, it seems to be pretty good, super skookum. They're not as sharp. The edges are not as refined, but that's something that you can do yourself. That's not a reflection of the axe itself. And the handles are far less premium. They don't have the thickness. They're a budget option. But if that's what you can get into, I've got actually one of my favorite, a really good fast intermediate splitting axe that I have is the Husqvarna wedge axe that I put a metal collar on, and it's an awesome axe. And I've got their carpenter axe as well. And my friend Brian, who used to work for me over in the old homestead, he's got the carpenter's axe, and he really likes his. He customized his handle, did a little bit of extra work on it, and it's really nice. They're excellent. No complaints with those at all. Shout out to Andrew Rouse. He just became a member. I hope to see you over on the members chat, on the members live stream. Tony Bologna, new member. Jesus, family, relationships, compassion. There you have it. That sums it up right there. To be kind, compassionate, considerate creatures, the creatures that God made us to be. Step away from all of the competition and all of that and the hard guy. Those guys won't be in the kingdom. And their lives are terrible. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a friend of mine that I have that is heavy in the logging industry. That's what he does. He works around those type of guys, and those guys are pretty hard. Those guys are hard. They're pretty hard. And he's in that, and he's in a position where he works multiple different sites and stuff. And I know who he is, and he is a kind soul. He's just such a soft and just a beautiful, beautiful person inside, but nobody knows it. And you can just see he's so afraid, and it's hard for me to be around him because he's not authentic. And my heart just aches for him because I see the potential. He's just has this charisma that is just infectious, but it's offset by that tough guy persona that so many of us have had in the John Wayne deal, that no one ever gets to experience it, and it just holds him back. And he's on. It's like he has to be something, but he can't be who he is. And can you imagine going through life like that? It's got to be dreadful. His life life's too short, gentlemen. I'm done with it. I'm just done with it. I'm going to become an emotional creature. The emotions, how God works with us and how God speaks to us. And took me a long time to figure this out. Just figured it out. Is through feelings. Feelings turn to thoughts, and those thoughts need to be reacted upon. immediately. The moment you engage the lizard brain, the reptile brain, the thinking portion, when you get away from emotions that turn to thoughts that should turn to reactions, you reason it away. You reason away opportunities because it just doesn't make sense. A lot of the things, God works in mysterious ways, and he'll ask you to do things that don't make any sense. And if you react to it immediately, that's how you work, that's how you operate by the guidance of the Holy Spirit. I don't understand it, God, but I'm doing it. If I look like a fool, I look like a fool. Maybe you need to look like a fool. Maybe I need to look like a fool. I don't remove comments anymore unless they're vulgar, even if they're very derogatory towards me, because my ego is enormous, and that is my greatest vice. And that is a check to my ego. I let it stand because, a lot of times in those comments, there's a ring of truth in them. And if you find yourself, your gut reaction is immediately like, I'm going to ban this person and he's out of here and I'm closing that off. That's an admission that hurts you, or that affected you in a way, or that just maybe cut a little bit too close to the heart. If you're struggling with pride, the worst thing you can do is to take that mentality. I understand that now. You need to leave it up there. You need to let it go and let it ride and reflect upon that. Is there merit behind it? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But just to take time to consider it, but to leave it up there. And then you also take away the ammunition of the hater. Because there's nothing that gives a hater more fuel to a fire than to think that, I'm being suppressed. You're taking away my freedom of speech, and then you have an enemy. Man, there's probably some truth in there. He probably has a point. Also, it's easy to get the wrong impression. It's hard to communicate emotion across this media, across text, and something you may perceive it to be meant a certain way that it was not. There's a biblical story that's so good that really speaks to this. King David, one of his sons rose up and challenged his throne. And he could have decided to fight his son and to reclaim his kingdom or reestablish his reign. But he knew that there would be bloodshed, and he knew that it was most likely the case that his son Absalom would have been killed in the putting down of the rebellion. He made the decision to walk away, to abdicate his throne. And which was very dangerous, because in those days, that would have been a great threat to Absalom, and he would have moved heaven and earth to tamp out any heirs or his father himself, because that was a threat to his kingdom. King David showed incredible strength of character. As he was leaving, there was a man, I think his name was Shimei, or something similar to that. And as David, with his profession and his wives and his family, as they were leaving Jerusalem, or the city of David, whatever it was, I think it was Jerusalem, there was this man was reviling him and cursing at him and throwing rocks and just mocking the king. Something that would have just been unthinkable when he was in his power. Back in the day, if someone would have done that to King David, one of King David's mighty men would have went over there and whoosh, his head would have been off, right? Well, one of his soldiers, seeing this guy reviling the king and throwing rocks and making the scene, said, "Hey, I'll go up there and sort that out right now." David said, "No, just leave him alone. Let him do it. Who knows that God might show some favor upon me for this reviling that I'm taking. Maybe I brought it upon myself." It's a very mature way to look at life that way. And that's the way I look at from now on, with comments and haters like that. It is, I'm not above reproach. And knowing that pride is a problem, arrogance is a problem, that is a check to that God has put there. And who am I to take it upon my hands to put it down? So is it delight? Do I enjoy it? No one likes it, but I'm not above reproach. Let's get that clear. And none of us are. And sometimes we need that. The servant is not greater than his master. And we need it, when we're grown up, we realize that they hated Jesus. They reviled him. They threw stones at him, and they murdered him. You know, how could we expect anything less? And so, as Paul says, you know, when I'm reviled and I'm hated and stones are cast at me, I count it as benefit, that I am worthy to receive rebuke for the gospel's sake. That that is something, I'm doing what my Lord did. And when you see it in that context, you realize that it couldn't be any other way, and it's necessity for character building. If we get to the point where we believe we're beyond reproach, then that's the point where we're truly lost. We have a super chat from my12521252. Shout out to you. Good to see you back. Member for 2 months. We'll see you over on the members only chat. Missed the lantern light, but joined the best part. Well, you did miss it, and there was fuel spillage. Not only did I have a wet spot right here, spill fuel on my chopping block, I spilled it all over my iron hearts, which I'm not happy about. Thank you for that. Thank you for your generosity. We have a super chat from Aiden Zanker. Shout out to you, Aiden. Aiden writes, I can't tell you how much I friggin' love these new live streams. Much appreciated from Australia. Thank you, Aiden. I do. I worry about them. I don't know even what I'm going to talk about, and I don't know if I would have anything to talk about if it weren't for you guys. I'm inspired. You know, things come up, questions come up, and you know these are just things we're all struggling with, and we just need to face them together. We're coming into hard times, troubled times, and ideally, we could be a tribe in a community somewhere and we could lean upon one another, but this is what we have. And this is the world that we live in, and we have to make the best of it. And it's not terrible. So I draw encouragement from you, and I hope that I can do the same. But thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Excavation Nation is back. Shout out to you. And he says, good to catch a stream. Hope you well, my friend, and also everyone else. Yeah, it's good to see you back. You've been with us a long time. We appreciate your generosity. You've been very generous here. Thank you. Shout out to Dowens89. He says, why do you work daily barefoot? I just enjoy it. I said earlier, I think God moved it upon me that there's something about this being grounded. Maybe it wasn't an issue in the past, or just being more connected to the land, or maybe it's just all the frequencies that we have to deal with. Just felt a desire to do it. Just kind of like being hungry. You know, you don't know where it comes from. It's just, you know, you're hungry and you know you got to eat. I just knew that I had to get my shoes off, and once I started doing it, I just have to do it. Even having socks on bothers me anymore. I basically tromp around here in my tactical clogs full of the time, and I like that because I can just kick them off. You need shoes sometimes. I mean, I'm not out snow biking or in the snow. I try to do a little bit to toughen myself up, but man has to wear shoes. But if you can, the clogs are kind of nice because I can kick them off in the car. My feet get hot, and it keeps my feet cooler. I just enjoy it. I don't know why. Maybe it's grand. Maybe I'm insane. That could be. But I've never been happier. So if this is what insanity is, I'd recommend it. We have a super chat from Jared C., who writes, your relationship with your granddad makes me wish I'd appreciated mine more. He's the reason I have most of what I have, and I never thanked him. Yeah, no, I didn't thank him either, you know, and I wasn't able to leave things as well as I would have hoped either. He was everything to me when I was a boy. My mother wanted me to go to a school that was out of our school district. And the reason for that was that the majority of the kids from the church, the Christian cult that I grew up in, that they attended school there as well. And she didn't want me to be at a school where I didn't have any of those influences, right? So to do that, we didn't live there, and you have to go to school where you live, so they registered me at my grandparents' house, and so I went to that school. So I was there every day after school, and I would just sit there when I was a boy, just sit there and look out the window and wait for him to come home. He was a mechanic. He was a transmission mechanic. He worked at the Ford dealership. So he had a regular schedule, and I just longed for him to come home. And he would come home, and it took so long for him to come in because he would come. He just had a routine. You know, having a routine is important. I'm starting to see that now. He'd come in and he'd take off his shoes and sit on the stoop, and he'd put on his house shoes and, put his clean clothes on, and he'd come in and he had the same thing. And it just took, I was very, very close to him. He was really my father growing up. And when I became older, when you become older at 16, get a car, 16, 17, 18, your granddad's just not the most important thing anymore. It's like that storybook, that Shel Silverstein, The Giving Tree. That book makes me cry every time I read it. I've given that book as a gift to a lot of people, and it's the story. It's the same story of the boy's relationship with the tree and how he moves on in his life, and he doesn't have time for his granddad anymore. And the years and the decades rolled by, and the busyness of life and raising my own family. And I didn't put an emphasis on going back and spending the time that I could have, and the time wasted doing other things. And yeah, it's a tough deal. I didn't understand either. I understand now, but what can we do about it? What can we do? Fortunately, I'm very, very fortunately, the last couple of years, last year of his life, he was able to come out, to the old homestead, and I made a point of, I used to go get him and take him out to breakfast. Not as often as I should, but I did once a week or so. I was able to reconnect, after, and it wasn't just me either. There was a lot of pressure and strain because he was still part of that church. And if someone were to see him with me, the consequences on his end, would have been catastrophic. Not that he cared. I don't think he didn't care. Him and my grandmother, when we went back for a funeral for his brother, we were very unwanted at the family funeral, I assure you. My sister and I came back. No, none of my old friends. It was very strange. None of my friends. Corinne and I walked into a group of 1,500 people or so at a funeral. Pariahs. Beyond pariahs, like devils, like lepers walking into a group. You just see people just recoiling because we had left. Once you left this organization, you were blackballed. I mean, it was forbidden to even talk to you. And Corinne and I didn't want to go, but we felt obligated because it was my granddad's brother, his funeral. And here we walked into the midst of this, and all of the family that I knew from the time I was an infant, all of my best friends that I grew up with, hunting, inseparable, like brothers, turned their back on me. None of them had the balls to come up and to defy the group, except for two people, my grandparents. My Nana came over there as bold as effing brass in front of the whole congregation. The courage of a lion to hug her grandkids. I can't express the courage that I took. And my granddad as well. And after that, I saw that they didn't care. I thought that just didn't want to put them in that position. So I stayed away. I'm sorry, I'm a fool. But I was able to reconnect after that, and that's when I made that's when I started going back, and I would go and sit with them, as often as I could. I lived, it was hard. I had my own family, and trying to get things going. But
we were able to reconnect, and I'm really grateful for that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just overcome. I haven't talked about this. I guess I hadn't thought about it until now. I think there's a lot more. I think I got a lot more damage on me from that whole experience than I understand. I mean, maybe that's an excuse for a lot of things. I don't know. It is what it is, though. Huh? We have a super chat from Trickstar for Chuck001. Shout out to you. Says tips for growing a small YouTube channel. Well, the tips right now are YouTube is really promoting shorts. I get my shorts game down. Don't neglect the long content. I'm going to be trying to get back to that a little bit. I've been forced to do shorts because of the algorithm. You know, this is my living. I want to be authentic, and I am authentic, but I just can't produce things that aren't being promoted and don't get used. You have to adapt to what's going on, and that changes all the time. You have to be very flexible. So don't get entrenched, don't get dug in on stuff, because as soon as you find something that works, they'll flip it, and you have to be able to move quick and adapt. But for right now, if you want to, there's a gold rush for shorts, and if you want to grow your channel quickly and take advantage of that, then I would recommend that. We have a super chat from Forest Surfer Boulot. Shout out to you. He writes, "Hi there from Scotland. Having a child soon, what would you say has stopped them from getting indoctrinated by the media and society? I wish I could be like your grandfather was to you." Yeah, the most important thing is you're going to get, if you do the right thing, you're going to receive a lot of pressure from friends and family. You need to have courage. You need to have a spine of steel and get with your wife and talk about this and say, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it. You need to educate your own children. Now, I'm going to ruffle feathers, and I know there's always exceptions, but there's also a lot of excuses. You need to not be putting your children in public school, and that's just as simple as that. They are working against your values. They're working against the parents. It's not a place. You cannot in good conscience turn your children loose in that environment, in my opinion. And I know people are not going to agree with that, but that's the way I see it. It's just not an option anymore. It was an option, and you'll really struggle with your boomer parents too, because schools weren't so bad, or maybe, I don't know. I don't think they were as bad. They were pretty bad. I was in them, but they're real bad now. And they'll not see it, and they'll think, what are you, crazy? But you need to homeschool, and if you think you can't afford it, that it's all about decision. It's all about sacrifice and compromise. You might have to go down to one car instead of two. People make sacrifices for their kids. We did. We gave up, a $150,000 a year salary that my wife had, so that she could raise our children. So I know about compromise, or I know about sacrifice. And you may say, well, but must be nice. But, the thing with money, I've had money and not had money. You're still in the same spot. You just spend more. It comes down to, you still have a lot of the same concerns and more, but you figure it out. You eat your food you eat different food. You're not having steak every night. It's rice and beans and rice. You make a compromise for your kids, because if you decide to have kids, then maybe you ought to think about raising them. So whatever it takes to make that happen, that's what you need to do. Whatever compromise, you have to move out to a cheaper place or whatever. It doesn't matter. The Lord knows what we have need of before we ask. There's a promise. You're not doing this on your own. You really need to get connected with God. And He knows that if this is on your heart, and He knows that this is important. He knows that it's important for parents to raise their own children. He knows what's going on in school. He'll provide the resources. You might have to skimp and scrape, but so be it. We'll give an account for these children. So do what you have to do. Move heaven and earth. Be a man. Be the priest of your household. grow up and do what you have to do, whatever it takes. As my dad said, figure it out. Figure it out. Thank you, Tyler. Super chat from Tyler. We have a super chat from Clayton Elkins. Shout out to you, Clayton. And Clayton writes, I woke up at 3 a.m. last night. A week ago, that would have had no meaning to me, but after watching your live stream, it had me thinking all day on it. Yeah, it's the truth. 3 a.m. is when the veil is at its lowest. That's when the adversaries and the people that are your enemies and the people that are enemies of Christ's church and us, his children, that's when they attack us. There are people that are actively trying to do you down. There are Satanists and demons and evildoers that are actively praying against and putting curses, who knows what they do on our family. When I pray with the Sweet Loaf, I pray with her every night. I've explained this to her, even at her young age, the difference between good and evil. When children have nightmares, when they become that age, that's the great conflict. That's the controversy between good and evil. That's when they're finally becoming aware of it. And when we as parents try to dispel that and push that away, it's like, oh, you just had a nightmare. No, they need to understand. If you don't explain to them what's going on, that there is evil in the world, that there are forces that would sift them like wheat, as it's put in the good book, you leave a little child to deal with that difficult situation with no explanation or no parenting, it is reprehensible. It's not an easy conversation, but I had to have it with her when she started having nightmares, and that came up, and us being, me being public at the tip of the spear of the spiritual battle in this country. Do you think that my family is not under tenfold attack? And even so now, she needs to be prepared. And what we do is I pray with her every night when I put her to bed, and we pray for protection. Protection on our home, protection around our property, and we go to sleep knowing that God's got our back, and I don't neglect that. If you want protection, you just have to ask for it. God has limited, the analogy he gives, it limited about like the ocean. It can only go so far. It can beat upon the shore. It can even in storms go up and get up on the road sometimes and tear some houses up a little bit, but it can only go so far and no further. And that's the same way with your home. If you've consecrated your home and your family, especially, you have that obligation as priest of your household, then the evil cannot come. But if you open a door, if you reject the protection of God, and that could be getting into anything with the occult. It can be even some psychedelics. I don't trust those. Whenever you can let that, not take serious the protection that God offers, the door can be opened a crack. And once that crack is open, then it can be thrown wide open. And then, what you have in your house can destroy it. It's very, very important. When you feel that 3 a.m., when the veil is low and you're woken up, as most Christians will be, if you're close to God, you'll be dealing with this. You need to get down, even though you're not going to want to, and it sucks. Get up, get yourself a glass of water, and kneel down on your bed and pray those promises of God. Pray for that protection, and it'll counteract all of those things. This is something we have to deal with. It's not going to be easy. What man, Christ tells us, what man does it, you need to count the costs. If you're going to put your hand to this plow, if you're going to go down this road, then you need to understand that it's going to be a battle. You're not going to be battling alone, but you have to be very diligent. And you have to understand that you will be under attack and to deal with that. This is not Joel Osteen Christianity here. This is the true word right here. We're going to say it like it is. We're not going to candy coat anything. We have a super chat from Jay Olson 26. Shout out to you, Jay Olson. And he writes, Cody, do you have a tripod you would recommend for an iPhone? Thank you for these live streams. I have several. You just can't go wrong with Manfrotto. It's an Italian brand. It's not top of the tier. It's not professional grade, but it is more than adequate. I used it for years. The price is moderate. The quality is top tier, excellent, and the durability is good. I found for me, being a daily hard user, that it doesn't stand up over the long haul. And I mean, I'm talking pretty extreme stuff. It just not robust enough. I had to go to next level. So if you want to go to the best of the best, and buy once, cry once, and I've got the tripod that my C70 is sitting on right now is I've had it for many, many years. It's carbon fiber, and it has been through the tortures of the damned, to say the least. It's trees fallen on it. I mean, snow, everything. I've shot on it for years, and nothing wrong with it. So good I bought a second one, and that's built by Pro Media Gear. Pro Media Gear and RRS, Really Right Stuff, are the two best, in my opinion. Now, this is for content creators. We're not talking filmmakers. And even that's even filmmaker grade, in my opinion. Filmmaker stuff is heavier typically. You know, they don't cater to that so much. This is more smaller stuff. But if you want the very best of the best, Really Right Stuff or Pro Media Gear, I buy Pro Media Gear. Not because I have a particular preference, but because I just got started with it, and everything I have from them has been incredibly, all USA made, all hand CNC machined, the best of the best. Expensive. If you want the best tripod head, Miller. Get a Miller for a video head. Excellent. But Manfrotto, I've outgrown my Manfrotto stuff. I don't think there's anything left in my rotation that I use Manfrotto except for a couple of light stands and my iPhone tripods. I have two iPhone tripods that are Manfrotto, just little desktop ones. But they're good, and at good prices too. Excellent quality. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. Thank you for your generosity. Jason Barr, welcome. You've always been so generous to us. Shout out to you, Jason. Jason says, all this talk of youth makes me think of my childhood. What makes great fathers is very forgiving children. My dad is great. Yeah. Yeah, and those of us who have, not me, I don't throw myself into that, but people who have ungrateful sons, and I guess I've dealt with that before too, you know, those ages 14 are tough. Sometimes it's hard, you can lose sight of that, but even now, you know, Jack at 17, 18, he's starting to come around and realize, my old man's not too bad. You'll get it. You just have to. It might just take a few years. But thank you, Jason. Sure appreciate that. We have this will probably be our last super chat. I think we probably went way over. What time did we start? Goodness, is this stream? Did it go that long? 12:30. 2 hours. Good grief. Question Tree writes, I bet you're really looking forward to that cold shower now. I am. I absolutely am looking forward to that cold shower. Yeah, I'll probably do one tonight. I'll do one tonight. I'll close with this if no one else has anything they want to talk about. Mrs. W and I went to the Wim Hof's, his website, and we just ordered the 10-week program. And I am resolved to do it. I'm going to just follow it 100%. Whatever he says, I don't even know what's in it. Whatever he says to do, I'm going to do it. Once I realized that I could do the cold shower, I know I can do it. I've been doing it for coming up on 2 weeks now, and I'm even doing it multiple times a day and extending the times. And I really, really want to jump in that stream down there, but I'm afraid. I am afraid to do that. It's one thing to take a cold shower in the heat and comfort of your home. It's a whole nother deal to go. I don't know what the temperature of that water is. Maybe we'll go down there. I'll put the thermometer in it. But it's cold, man. There's ice in there. That's a whole nother deal there. That's a whole nother level. And as frightened as I was of the first shower, I'm not as frightened. I'm not as frightened of jumping in that river as I am of that first shower, if I were to be honest to think about it. But I know that's ultimately where this will end up. That I feel called to it. I don't know why. But what I'm thinking now is to kind of cheat it a little bit. Maybe we'll wait till the weather's a little bit warmer. Maybe there's not snow on the ground. But who knows? You know, I'm very unpredictable person. I could get up in the middle of the night and decide to go jump out there and do it. But I don't know. It does frighten me. That's a whole nother level. And I've been thinking, how does one get in something like that? Do you wade in? And you know that's not going to work. You know, the lizard brain will get going, and you'll give yourself a million reasons why you should be out of that cold water. It doesn't make any sense. I know that will happen. I think you just have to jump in, which is even more frightening. It's terrible. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Overton for putting together, as I like to call it. I'm going against what you want to be called, but as I'm calling them, my middlemen, who are a small army of my most trusted lieutenants that are going to help me carry this burden, carry this load with the super chat. The reason why I was able to get to everyone's super chats today and to be very effective in answering everything is because of the middlemen. They came up with a solution. It's my think tank. The think tank, the middlemen put together a solution to get information to me in a way that's simple, where I can focus on you guys and your super chats and your questions. And it started off a little rocky. I tried to go back to the chat because I didn't see them there. I don't know what happened. It's probably something on my end. But once I got into it, it worked flawlessly. So well done, gentlemen. It works excellent. And to you guys, just a little side note, to the middlemen, Mrs. W and I have everyone's contact information. We are preparing something special for you guys that I think you will very much enjoy, that we can now put together. So give us a little time. There's a couple things we have to have manufactured, and we'll get those out to you. And a special thank you to Overton for herding those cats, because I have made the mistake of trying to collect multiple addresses. You see, I'm not prone to being a devious person. Like it doesn't dawn on me that people would be dishonest with things. You know, what I found was when we had contests or giveaways in the past, and I picked subscribers for different things, there are a whole lot of people that will create fake accounts and impersonate the folks that win, and then you send something that was intended for someone else, and they steal from you that way. And even with this, it didn't even... Overton picked up on that right away, you know, and I didn't even dawn on me that people might try to do that. And so he was able to wade those dangerous waters and make sure that we have the authentic, everyone is authenticated. And thank you for that, Overton. That was probably no small feat. Pray for me, beloved. Pray for my family. Don't say you're going to do it, not do it. Please do it. It makes a big difference. We are able to do this only because of these prayers and the protection of God. There are a lot of enemies of God's people, and that army is increasing. But we have no fear. We're going to go forward boldly, and we will not shrink from the task. I have girded myself with the armor of God. I am equipping myself with the sword of truth, which is the word of God, and we will be victorious. We will be victorious. And we'll see you on the other side. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers. Still looking for someone to clip. If you are capable and you get it, don't waste my time, don't waste your time. But someone that could clip these videos and take a load off of me, we would be greatly appreciative. We could even compensate you within reason. But if you have it upon your heart to help this ministry, for lack of a better word, the majority of your treasure will be in heaven, because it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And I need it. I need it. I'm not going to be able to. I'm trying to do it. I'll try to clip a couple out of this if there's anything that's fitting. But it takes a lot of time that I just don't have. And I could use some help with that. All right. Well, if that's it, may God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you guys on the next video.